How's it going on? Larry here with the Farmstead Way, and obviously I am not on my homestead. I am here in North Carolina with my good friend Pat McNamara.
All right.
And once again, thank you so much for allowing me to come out and film.
Absolutely.
So a lot of people may know Mac from Special Forces and from fitness stuff, but I don't feel like a lot of people know you as Pat Mac the farmer.
Yeah, probably not. Unless they're watching some basic dude stuff
Unless
videos.
they're watching some basic dude stuff.
Yeah, then they probably see a smattering of it there.
Mm-hmm. So this will be a cool conversation because we have a different dynamic. I am more of a rural homesteader, while Mac is an urban homesteader. He lives in a neighborhood. How much property do you have just right here?
Oh, people would think if they watch my vids that I have a lot of property, but I have an acre. It's basically a lot. Mm-hmm. But I do have like easements and dead space on both sides of me and back. So I have a lot of privacy. And then I bought a chunk of land across the street from me so people can't build there.
Right.
So a lot of privacy.
Yeah, because I live on 21 acres,
Right.
and it's just everywhere you look, it's like we own all of that. And,
Right.
And
Nice.
it's a hit and miss thing because on one hand, it's nice having the room because you have potential for bigger things, but on the other hand, some of it's so big, you need like an army to do something with it. So a lot of it just kind of grows up.
Yep.
But getting into the farmstead stuff, how did you get into gardening and homesteading?
I've always been into gardening, but the homesteading and like the prepping started about a decade ago, and just looking at state of world events and what's in our grocery stores. I mean, most of the food that we buy in the grocery stores is toxic.
Yeah.
You know, so, and then I started escalating throughout the years. And then it's become this labor of love, you know, you do what you hate to create what you love type of thing. And now I am almost completely self-reliant when it comes to at least the produce that I buy. Mm-hmm. Any produce that I consume or my family consumes comes from here.
Yeah, that's something that I want to get more into because, like we've been talking about over the past couple of days, it's just the stuff you buy at the stores and stuff. It's like you almost can't even trust it. Even if it says organic, you're like, yeah, I don't know what you did to this.
Yeah, we're the only country in the world that purposely tries to poison our citizens.
Jeez. And you were not raised doing this kind of stuff, right?
No.
Because neither was I. And I think a lot of people get discouraged when it comes to homesteading stuff because they're second, third generation farmers and they grew up riding tractors and planting crops and stuff. And a lot of people are intimidated because you see all of this work, and what people don't realize is small incremental steps.
That's right. Yeah, you piecemeal it, you know, and there's a lot of experimentation. There's a lot to learn when it comes to farming, you know, especially backyard farming. And fortunately, here where I live, I'm in zone 8, so I could have about 3 rotations through summer garden. And then just recently I started my winter garden, this being October now. Mm-hmm. And then the winter stuff will grow all throughout the cold months, even if it freezes, which it will. Mm-hmm. We'll get a substantial freeze and maybe even a winter event. Mm-hmm. But the hardy stuff will make it all through the winter, and I'll be harvesting in March.
Awesome. So here on your home, what all homesteading stuff have you gotten into? You've got raised beds, you've got other things. So what all have you got going on here?
Well, I've got the prep, you know, just supplies, and that's everything from a lot of water, a lot of fuel, a lot of supplies, a lot of food, a lot of first aid, a lot of personal hygiene. I built to harvest water. I built an outhouse with a compostable toilet in the backyard, and then got chickens. You can see the coop. I got seven chickens right now. I'm fixing to up that number. And then 14 raised beds. It seems like every year I get a couple more. You can see a couple leaning against the fence back there. I'm going to build those and look for a good place to put them, because some of my backyard has full sun, some of it has partial sun, because we have here, you could see For those looking, the tall trees behind us are longleaf pines native to this area, and they're very tall, so they do block a lot of sunlight, but my backyard gets quite a bit. So yeah, 14 raised beds right now.
Yeah, gardening is something that my wife and I have done with family on our homestead, because on our homestead we have a couple different homes where, you know, it's kind of more the traditional homestead where all the family lives on one property. But this next spring will be our first year doing our own gardening. So it's going to be an interesting challenge, because starting from nothing is a little scary. You just have this plot of dirt, and then even when you go through and clean it up, you start seeing grass shooting up again. You're like, oh God. So for the people that feel intimidated, wanting to get into this, what words of encouragement would you have for them?
I think anybody can do it. A lot of people are dissuaded by doing any kind of homesteading or gardening because they say, well, I don't have a green thumb, or I don't have any room. I live in an apartment. You could buy a kit of like microgreens, you know, and plant them on your windowsill, and they're idiot proof, and you could, you know, trim off with scissors your daily salad. You know, you could start there, and then once you realize that, oh man, I could actually grow something out of the ground and consume it, I think that's a good like launching platform. You know, just start small, or start with the real basics, the stuff that is almost idiot proof, like tomatoes in a pot. Because you really can't mess those up. It's hard to mess those up.
Yeah, I know it's really easy for some people to get discouraged, because you type in homesteading on YouTube and you have all these videos, these massive properties that are literally packed full of stuff, and they're like 80-90% self-sufficient, and someone's like, oh, I can't do that. But it's really important to start small. You know, start a little compost bowl, like you've said before. Put your eggshells and your coffee grounds in there. Get you some basic plants, and then work it within the means that you have. Because a homestead is not measured by the amount of stuff I have. It's more of a mindset. Because not everyone's going to have, you know, 20-something acres of farmland and all these other things. But the premise of a homestead is being able to provide for yourself what you can grow at home and being self-sufficient.
Yeah, it's real. It's you get a lot of fulfillment and satisfaction out of it, knowing that you can be self-sustaining. You know, like I said, it's a labor of love, and this takes years. You're not going to do it in one season. There's no way. It's way too much work. But it's plus the other benefit is therapy. It's very therapeutic, stress reliever, and one might say, well, it's not cost effective, like to grow your own stuff because it's cheaper in the grocery store. That's really not the point. The point is, when the grocery store is not up and running, can you provide for yourself? You know, or as an alternative to buying stuff that's bombarded with toxins and chemicals, you could produce something that's clean of all of that crap.
Yeah, and like just going down like the therapy route, working on stuff around your farm and on your garden produces a type of character in yourself that you cannot get anywhere else. I mean, I've read some of like the Laura Ingalls Little House on the Prairie books, and even though there's a lot of like fantasy and drama involved in it, but just the thought of a man used to wake up when the sun got up, go and work in his fields all day, not because he's like, oh, especially back then, like trying to stay away from the grocery stores, as if I don't take care of these crops, my family dies in the winter. And that puts a sense of responsibility on a person, where others are counting you literally for their survival. So things like, oh, it's too hot, no, I don't feel like it, and it's like, yeah, well, if you don't do this, your family's going to starve. So it's just, it develops this really nice inner character. And men, you know, human beings are supposed to dig in the dirt. And we have lost that. It's everyone's pushing a grocery cart, but then those potatoes that are in your oven mean so much more to you when you've started them off, and it's something that you have to worry about. You know, you go to the grocery store, it's like, oh, I'm gonna get potatoes, and then there's times where you're in the house and it's like, I hope to God those start sprouting, because if they don't.
And you know, it's funny you say that with potatoes. I've even pushed outside of the exterior of my property boundaries, and I'm planting out in the easements and stuff. I mean, nobody else is using the land, so I may as well. So I have sweet potatoes out there, for instance.
Pat Mac's eminent domain.
Until somebody tells me that I can't. I'm going
Right.
to keep doing it.
Yeah, and that's what kind of leads into the next question is, since you live in the suburbs, are there challenges that are hard to overcome that would be remedied if you lived more in the country?
Yeah, one of the things here with the town that I live in, it's permissible, for instance, to have chickens, but you can't have roosters. It's a noise ordinance thing, which for me, I don't mind that much because I just have egg layers. And there are, the small government rules you have to abide by or pretend that you're abiding by.
Yeah.
Like HOA type of stuff. But I was able to circumvent a lot of that stuff. For instance, this neighborhood, when I moved in, had an HOA that, unbeknownst to me, a year after I moved in and had chickens and a bunch of different wildflower beds, the HOA said that I couldn't have them. So the chickens, to circumvent that system or to give the HOA a big middle finger, I registered my chickens as emotional support animals. And then I registered my backyard. You see the sign back there as a wildlife habitat. So where there's a will, there's a way.
Yeah, it's something I never thought about. Since you're in more of an urban area, do you have to worry about predators for the chickens or anything?
Yeah, well, this is not, you could see where I live. It's not built up, right? It's very, very quiet. For the viewers, you could hear an airplane go by every once in a while because there's a small municipal airport across the road. But I live on a decommissioned golf course. So I've got a lot of playroom. There's a lot of freedom here considering I live, in an urban area. But there are mega predators here. We have all of the chicken killers from possum, raccoon, fox, yotes, and then there are just a mega number of deer here. Decommissioned golf course. So they're everywhere. So I've got game cams up too, just to keep tabs on them. You know what I'm saying? But I've got a game cam back there and 2 across the street on my property, and so I can keep tabs on predators and, potential infiltrators. People just wanting to rubberneck or up to nefarious deeds.
Right.
But yeah, it's more the game cams are fun, but they could also dissuade, home.
Yeah, people are sneaking around.
Yeah, trespassing and things like that.
Yeah, because out at our house, we it's raccoons, possums, minks. We have a lot of buzzards and black-headed vultures, and we have farm dogs at our house. And as soon as they see a giant buzzard swoop over, they start freaking out. And but that's just kind of the thing that you have to deal with when you have crops out, as everyone sees that your backyard has food.
Yep. Right.
And they all want the food too.
Yep.
But obviously when we live out in the country, you just stick a rifle out the window and just take care of it. Without here, it's like
yeah, here it's cross-border suppressor.
Yeah, there you go. Now you said you also do prepping stuff, and something that I realized is there's can be a difference between homesteaders and preppers.
Right.
So with your, what's your mindset? Are you more preparing for something bad to happen, or are you more in the camp of, I just want to be more self-sufficient?
Yeah, I don't anticipate anything bad happening. I am not, a pessimist. But the thing is, we human beings, we're not long for this planet. Mother Earth will chew us out, chew us up and spit us out. And like I said, it's kind of a labor of love. It's just for self-satisfaction, the prepping thing. And my prep is designed for bug in rather for bug out.
Yeah.
How long can I sustain here if and when the lights go out and the water stops pumping, those kind of things. So it's kind of a hobby, you think about it. You think of worst case scenarios. You think of the what ifs. And there's so many of them. I mean, you take that big fireball in the sky behind us. One mass coronal ejection and the lights will go out, the cars won't run.
Yeah.
And we're due for one of those.
Yeah.
A massive EMP. So Yeah, I mean, I do it just because there's so many what ifs out there, and we've had a series of them just in the past couple years here and worldwide. We had coronation, right? So the pandemic, and then we had here we had the petro pipeline gets sabotaged. It got hacked. So there was no fuel in the southeast for, I don't know, a week. People were freaking out.
Yeah.
But we were good to go. I've got tons of it. Rule of thumb for our cars is when they're in the driveway, they're never below 3/4 of a tank. And then the next thing that happened is we had the power station sabotaged, domestic terrorist attack. So there were a couple million people out of electricity. This was in 23, just a year ago, was it?
22.
22, yeah. So we were out of power, and it was in the winter for a full week. People were freaking out. We were good to go. We were happy as pigs in poop. Yep. We needed nothing from anyone. So even for that, I think people, and people shouldn't, because we understand the effects of Mother Nature, but people either they don't account for the forces of Mother Nature, or they just don't care and they're lazy. But here in the southeast, during hurricane system, we're going to lose power. So I think people should have enough supplies at least for like 3 days, but people don't even have that, man. Right. Hurricane prep here, people are running to the grocery store to get toilet paper, milk, and bread.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, you're getting those things. But yeah, better to have and not need than need not have. I mean, we just have stuff, and we have a lot of it. And I just keep building, onto that. It's like, what can I possibly need? So every once in a while, I'll pick something else up or build something, or just put plans in place to plan for those worst case scenarios, those what if moments, those Murphy moments.
Yes, that's something that I need to get better at, and a lot of it's just time and money, because a lot of the bigger prep and homestead things cost a lot of money.
Yeah,
solar panels, generators, and that's something I need to work on, especially for us is power, because I live in the country. We have a septic tank, we have a well, so if we have power, we have water, and we just went through a severe drought, and luckily our well did just fine. We have a pretty deep water table.
Nice, yeah.
So it's like in Ohio, we've got 50, 60, 70 foot deep wells. And it's really hard red clay soil, so it's able to move water pretty fine. So kind of getting to my last question. What are your homesteading goals and dreams?
Oh boy, that's a great one. Well, one goal and dream is I want to get a chunk of land that's not far from here. I like where I live, and I don't plan on moving just yet, but I want a secondary chunk of land.
Yeah.
For a number of reasons. One, to potentially build on later down the road. And I'm not talking mansion. I'm talking like tiny house, that kind of stuff. And to really get into it, to be completely self-sustained, to grow all my own veg and grow all my own meat.
Yeah.
So that's a big one. And as far as here goes, just kind of refining what I have. The project I just started recently, for instance, is a root cellar. So because I don't have a basement.
Yeah.
So I store a lot of food, but I'm running out of space.
Yeah.
So, that's another one of my my plans for the future. So that's a work in progress. That'll be done this winter.
Yeah, something I'd love to do at my place is eventually get into bigger livestock. My wife and I have been talking about getting into like milk goats and stuff.
Oh, right on.
We had a milk cow for a bit, but it was kind of an impulse buy, and we didn't do all of our research, because it's it's funny, you get into certain things, and on the surface level, it's like, oh yeah, I'll just get some chickens. And then you read and you're like, there's a certain kind of chicken, they react to certain kind of foods. And that's the same thing with like a milk cow, because you got to make sure they're tested for all these diseases and make sure they're A2 milk and stuff. So I'd love to get more into the bigger stuff, get into maybe eventually having beef cattle, because we have the room for it.
Right on, yeah.
But just making it so I don't have to go to the grocery store unless it's super specific things. Like you always say, salt, pepper, olive oil. The rest I can get at home. I don't need all your processed stuff. Well, cool. Well,
right on.
Thank you so much for inviting me out to your beautiful piece of property and getting to chat. I know I'm still just kind of a small fish in the YouTube pond, but it's always fun. It's always fun getting to chat with like-minded people, and especially someone that's in a different contrast. You're more of an urban homesteader. I'm a rural homesteader. And like I said, just I don't feel like not a lot of people, unless they follow basic dude stuff, have seen an in-depth view on you as a homesteader, farmer, more of a person of a country soul. Because everyone sees you and they think Pat Mac unit guy. They want to talk about guns and all that stuff. But it's like, let's talk about the dirt in your backyard.
Let's talk about dirt, plants, and birds.
Right. All right. So, you have a YouTube channel, Pat Mac. So one of the reasons I'm down here also is for the Pat Mac Keep the Blaze Alive coaching squad, which if you go on his YouTube channel and his website, you can find out more about that. It's really cool. There's different tiers that you can sign up for, and we do weekly live streams, and then twice a year we do meetups down here in North Carolina, and there's a Zoom call every week, or every other week, and it's a really cool group of guys, of broad spectrum of personalities in different fields. We have everything from homesteaders and farmers to eye surgeons and physical therapists and ex-military guys. So if you're interested in that, check that out. If you like this content, like, share, and subscribe. And thank you for having me out once again, Matt.
Right on. Thank you.
All right, you guys take it easy.